In this episode of Nostalgic Things, Drew takes a look at Halloween and the games that some of us like to play. He's joined with his YouTube friends from all over the world, and they tell you what games they like to play during this Halloween season. Let's take a look at the latest episode of Nostalgic Things. Welcome everyone to the latest season and episode of Nostalgic Things, the show where I take a look at various aspects of pop culture from the past. This episode is dedicated to Halloween and the video games that I and a few of my friends like to enjoy during this spooky season. So first, before I introduce you to my YouTuber friends, let's take a look at a brief history of Halloween. So it's believed that many of the Halloween traditions we celebrate today originated from old Celtic harvest festivals, including Samhain. I think I said that right. Or Samhain? Not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Some people, however, believe that it solely came from Christianity and didn't originate from any pagan festival such as Samhain. Some traditional Halloween activities include trick-or-treating, attending Halloween parties, bobbing for apples, carving pumpkins into jack-o'-lanterns, and lighting bonfires. In more recent times, some people have started to go and visit haunted attractions, play pranks on each other, watch horror movies, and of course the topic of today's video, play scary video games. So speaking of video games, me and a few of my good friends from YouTube all like to enjoy scary, spooky, creepy, horror video games during the month of October and especially around Halloween itself. So I thought it'd be a great idea to make this first video of season 2 of Nostalgic Things a Halloween special, the first collaborative Nostalgic Things video I've done, and get a few of my YouTube buddies onto the show to celebrate scary, creepy video games, and each of us will tell you the one game that, if we had one choice, we would pick to play on Halloween. So first up, my ex-Soviet cross-dressing JRPG enthusiast Cali dude friend Arthur from all the way over in Long Beach, California, from the YouTube channel PocketRocket Radio. He's going to tell us about his game that he would pick to play on Halloween. So let's make our way across the pond and visit Arthur.
Hey guys, you are watching Pop Culture Deathmatch. My name is Arthur from PocketRocket Radio, and I want to say thank you to Drew for letting me do a quick talking segment on your channel, especially since it's October, which means that the time is approaching for Halloween, and Halloween is definitely my favorite time of the year, because Halloween is the only time of the year where it is okay for me to walk around in my wife's lingerie. I hope. But yes, Halloween, full of spookiness, weirdness, and cross-dressing. But I'm actually going to be talking about my favorite, or at least one of my favorite horror games. And the game I'm picking is a gem, and it is unfortunately overlooked. Now, this is the GameCube exclusive, Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem. Yes, so this game came out on the GameCube in 2002. And I think one reason that it didn't get as much attention as it deserved was it was also competing with the Resident Evil remake, which did incredibly well and is still selling great on other consoles, along with other games like Resident Evil 0. And not to mention that some of the other original Resident Evil games were re-released. Basically, Resident Evil just kind of took the spotlight, and this game just flew under the radar, but it is amazing. Now, Eternal Darkness, the gist of it is basically you start off as a female protagonist named Alexandra Roivas, and you're going back to your grandfather's mansion where your grandfather has been found dead. And I guess your whole goal is to just figure out what the bleep happened. But you actually play through different characters throughout the game, and it's interesting because each character is actually more like a set of like genetic memories. So each character that you play as comes from a different time history, and they all have somewhat of a weird relation to your original character who you start off with. And the coolest part about this game, and I think the one thing that really set it apart, was the sanity meter. As more and more messed up stuff happens to you, the sanity meter goes down. And if you get to a point where it's completely gone, you actually start hallucinating things in game. And it's amazing because you'll actually hallucinate certain enemies at times, only to snap back to reality and realize that there was nothing there. That can actually be really, really crazy, since some characters actually use ranged weapons, so you might actually waste ammo on something that wasn't actually there. I would definitely recommend picking up Eternal Darkness: Sanity's Requiem on the Nintendo GameCube. It's a very unique game. It is actually pretty well balanced, so hardcore survival horror fans will definitely appreciate certain elements, and if you're new to the genre, it's not incredibly overwhelming. So I think it's pretty accessible to most people, but please check it out if you get a chance and if you're looking for something spooky to play during Halloween season. And with that, Drew, thank you again for having me. I'm gonna go cross-dress.
And we're back. So Arthur chose Eternal Darkness. It's a game from the GameCube that I had never played, and after watching him talk about it, I'm really gutted that I actually did miss it when it was released, and still to this day never played it. So definitely a game I will be looking to try and play at some point. So big thanks to Arthur, and if you haven't already, go and check out his YouTube channel, PocketRocket Radio, for lots of fun videos, a lot relating to video game content and music. He's genuinely one of my favourite humans and a really nice guy, even if some of his life choices are very questionable. Okay, so next up's another awesome guy, Ed from Belgium. He has a YouTube channel called Ed's Retro Geekout. He's a retro video game and vintage toy collector. He's also a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles enthusiast, and he's going for a full Game Boy set. He wants to collect every video game that was released for the Game Boy, and he's very close to doing that. So Ed's chosen not a full game, but a level from an old, very popular retro game from the N64. Again, a game that I have never played. So let's get over to Belgium and find out what Ed has picked.
Okay, so this is going to be kind of a weird one. I actually got Mario 64 as a birthday present. Now, my birthday is at the end of September, so around October, around Halloween time, I finally made it out of the basement in Mario 64, and I met with a ghost that leads me through a hall, and in the garden of the Mario 64 castle, there's actually multiple ghosts. So I start bashing them, and all of a sudden there's this bird cage, and when you try going towards it, it sucks you in, and all of a sudden you're met with a haunted mansion. Now this back in the day was pretty freaking awesome, also because it's the first haunted house or the first ghost house in Mario that was in 3D, so it kind of felt like a survival horror thing right there, and it didn't stop just at the feels of it because it was in 3D. The atmosphere, the music, the background music of this level is pretty freaking nice. One of the coolest stuff in there is the cliches. Like I said, you have the piano that attacks you, you have the books that come floating around, there's a big eye that can shoot at you, just a ton of really cool and scary stuff. A lot of that 2D stuff you saw back in the day in the regular Mario games coming to life in 3D, and yeah, that was one of the coolest levels I got to play back in the day that were kind of horror themed, that were kind of Halloween themed. So yeah, my pick is going to Mario 64, the Haunted Boo Mansion. And did I just compare Mario to a survival horror game? That's kind of weird.
So big thanks to Ed for coming on and telling us about the spooky level from Mario 64. Ed, again, is an absolutely awesome guy, really nice guy. His channel is very good. He does lots of flea market hunting, retro game and vintage toy hunting videos. He goes to lots of conventions. He's got an awesome collection, very knowledgeable about all the things that he does show you in his videos. And he also does awesome videos where he visits other game collectors, and some of the collections he's been to visit are actually epic. So definitely go and check out his YouTube channel, Ed's Retro Geekout. Okay, so next up we're going to go with my pick, and I thought long and hard about which game I was going to choose. There's many games that I could have chosen, spanning from the Master System and Commodore Amiga days all the way over to Xbox 360 and current gen. But of course this is nostalgic things, I've got to go with retro. And I made my choice based on a game that, when I thought back, was very important in my gaming life. I thought if I could only pick one game to play on Halloween, what would it be? And this is the game I picked. With a bit of backstory, we go all the way back to the late 80s. I was around 8 or 9 years old and I managed to pick up, I think at a second-hand shop or a boot sale or something like that, one of the old LCD games. It was from Namco and it was called Splatterhouse. At this time in my life, I was 8 or 9 years old, and I was actually really kind of obsessed with horror movies and slasher films. It was, I guess, that sort of, I wasn't really allowed to watch it sort of thing. But back in the 80s, parents were a lot more. They let their kids watch a lot more back then. My uncle would let me and my brother watch The Evil Dead when he was babysitting us. So I found this love of horror films, and in particular the slashers like Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th, and finding this LCD game with this character on it that looked like Jason Voorhees, the hockey mask, Rick from Splatterhouse. I fell in love with this thing, and then I found out that there was actually proper games on consoles in the same line. So I convinced my dad to trade in our Amiga 500 so that I could pay the rest of the money towards getting a Sega Mega Drive with this game. So the game in question, my pick for game to play on Halloween, is on the Sega Mega Drive or Genesis if you're in the US, and it's Splatterhouse 2. As a kid, I was fascinated with horror, and this led me to Splatterhouse. It started with the old LCD game. Upon buying this, I then found out that there was a game on the Sega Mega Drive, and that was in fact Splatterhouse 2. Rick, who's the main character, with his look being so close to slasher icon Jason Voorhees, and the amazing artwork that was on the game's case, it was inevitable that I was going to come to love Splatterhouse 2 on the Sega Mega Drive, released in 1992. With its gritty visuals, haunting music, and grotesque monsters, Splatterhouse 2 was the first game that really creeped me out. Now, its gameplay was nothing special, and it could be quite slow and clunky at times, and for a side-scrolling beat-em-up type game, it was nowhere on par with Streets of Rage 2 or anything like that. But I just loved it. There was something about it that I just fell in love with. And for me, it was the first game that I really felt like I was living a horror movie in those 8 to 16-bit sort of days before we had 3D graphics and whatnot. The story follows Rick, who's tempted by the Terror Mask to once again wear it and get the power to save his love, Jennifer. It is a game that I've revisited time and time again, year upon year, especially at the Halloween season, and just gives me that nostalgic feeling of being a kid again. If you have not played Splatterhouse 2, then I urge you to do so. The graphics are amazing for the time. The gameplay is nothing that will amaze you, but for me, it just has a timeless horror feel, and there's something for you to enjoy. So that was my Halloween game pick, guys. Certainly not the best game in terms of gameplay, but for me, one of the best representations of creepy games on any of the retro consoles pre-PS1. And it's certainly a game that means a lot to me. It was one of the very first games I picked up when I started retro video game collecting, which hasn't been long. Okay, so next up we're going all the way across the pond again to the US. This time to Springfield, Missouri, where we will meet one of the most awesome nerdy couples in the world, possibly, Tom and Lady Lacey. And they're going to tell us about their picks for Halloween video games, and also ask the question, do you nerd?
Hello, Pop Culture Deathmatch. Yes, yeah, combine them.
Yeah.
So it is October. It is Halloween time.
And it's a great month. Do you want to know why it's a great month?
I think I know a couple of reasons.
Well, one, Halloween is in October. Our anniversary is in October. And we're October YouTubers of the month. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
We couldn't have chosen a better month to be winners.
Another great thing about October is it is a fantastic time to revisit any of your scary stuff, whether it's scary movies, haunted houses, or scary video games.
Yeah.
So, what is a Halloween or scary game that you love to visit around this time of month?
I'm going to say Halloween because
Okay.
it's not very scary, but it is Zombies Ate My Neighbor.
Oh. Now, why do you pick that one, though?
Well, first and foremost, because there's zombies in it. And zombies and Halloween are kind of synonymous with each other. And it's kind of spooky. There's some spooky, eerie music in it here and there and everything. I don't think that it was meant to be scary in the game, but those stupid clown decoys, they always creeped me out because, one, I don't like clowns. And two, when you put them down, they do that little I don't know, it's a creepy daggum noise. I've never been a fan of chainsaw-wielding mass murderer people, and one of the zombies in there is a chainsaw mass-wielding murderer, and he's annoying too because he can cut through the hedges and everything.
He comes at you fast.
He does, and then let's face it, the Chucky knockoffs that are you encounter like in the supermarket or whatever, they got little axes and little. I think they're just axes. I don't think they have knives, but they're little tiny little babies running around.
They laugh at you too.
They laugh at you. They throw things at you. They're just creepy. I don't like them. But it's still not really that scary of a game. It's a fun game. It is kind of hard because the zombies can really screw you over when they get the neighbors if they get to them before you do. So.
Yeah. Oh, and the screams of the neighbors whenever the zombies get them.
Yeah.
you feel bad.
But it's a fun game. Like I said, the music is really great. It has like a fun eeriness to it. But I really love that game.
Well, for me, I'm going to have to go with the original Silent Hill. And this game back on PlayStation 1, oh man, Resident Evil was fine and everything for that more action horror thing, survivor horror. But this one, it was very atmospheric and very psychological horror. Most of the time, you wouldn't see the scary stuff that happened. You would come across the remains of it. You'd come into a room and there's like blood splattered everywhere and you don't know what's going on. It had some jump scares. It's funny because the fog was, is a technical thing to reduce draw distance to make the game run a little smoother, but it was very atmospheric at the time. I mean, this one, you have like they're almost like little kids with little knives and they cut you in the back of the leg, and, you have like body bags where they're walking, but, their arms are sealed in them. There's a lot of gruesome stuff in it. It's got a very haunting soundtrack. Yeah. And, hey, the whole time, you're just a father trying to find his daughter, so kind of, it gets you right there in the feels, too. Definitely a fun game. You got to check it out. The preset camera angles are a lot of fun because it puts you on unease whenever you're coming around a corner and you don't exactly have control of the way you're going. So, yeah, this is my pick. All right, so those are our picks for creepy, spooky, scary, Halloweeny games.
Kind of cutesy.
For the month of October. So, all right, well, you go have fun. I'm going to go get freaked out a little bit.
I'm going to go save my neighbors.
Bye, nerdlings.
Bye-bye.
That was awesome, Tom and Lady Lacey. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your video game picks. Silent Hill and Zombies Ate My Neighbours, or Zombies if you're from Europe, are again two games that I actually really love myself. So guys, if you haven't already checked out their channel, Do You Nerd, please go over. It's an awesome channel. It's really good fun. They're such nice people. And they do videos of video game collecting, toy collecting, subscription box opening. Their video game collection is massive. The consoles they own is vast and makes me very jealous. And they are genuinely two of the nicest people you are going to meet on planet Earth. Okay, so this leads me on to my final guest for this video. And you know what they say? Last, but by certainly no means least, it's David from Deckard Games. He's an IBM loving, big box PC game collecting, repro kart making, video game collector and potential replicant. From all the way in Porto in Portugal, it's David from the YouTube channel Deckard Games.
Now, when I think of Halloween and video games, I think, of course, of Resident Evil. You see, back in the day, I was a big 8 and 16-bit guy, along with the PC, of course. But when 3D was happening, I bought a Sega Saturn, and later I got Resident Evil for it. And I kind of enjoyed it, but it was not a very scary game. Now, don't get me wrong. The game was a great game, and it was the first survival horror game that I've played, but there was something missing. I was not really scared with the game on the Sega Saturn. Then, in a September of returning to school, my Pentium 1 happened. I got a Pentium 1 166 MMX with a Creative Labs multimedia kit and a 3DFX Voodoo graphics card, but I also got this, a pair of Primax Soundstorm speakers, and a couple of months in, I discovered this, a audio input 2. And I was like, wait, what if I plug in here my spare Creative Labs speakers that came with my multimedia kit, and bam, homemade stereo surround sound. And in the list of games to play was, of course, Resident Evil, a game that I didn't find very scary in the first place. And oh man, did things change. Remember, this was a homemade stereo surround system, and the in-game experience was completely new. Not only at this point I had 3D accelerated graphics which provided a way better image quality, but I also had stereo surround sound. And it was one jump scare after another for a game that stays until today, for all that was involved, the scariest game that I ever played. And this was my little story about video games and Halloween that I hope you enjoy. Hand you a happy Halloween to you, and happy Halloween to everyone.
So there you go, guys, another gem of a video game, and again, one of my favourite video games of all time. So if you're not familiar with David's channel, Deckard Games, it's a really great channel. Over there you're going to find content not only about video game pickups and showing you video games. He's also very knowledgeable on the PC gaming days, IBM PCs, big box PC games. You'll find lots of varied video game content on there, as well as really informative videos where he will show you how to make and produce your own repro Mega Drive games. And he does it through buying new parts, and he'll also show you how to recycle broken and old games. He's got lots of cool videos on his channel, so go over and check out Deckard Games for some really informative video game content. Okay guys, that is it for this episode of Nostalgic Things. It's good to be back making this show again. I hope we've opened your eyes to some really awesome, scary, creepy, horror related video games to enjoy in the Halloween season. A big thank you to all my special guests. Thank you so much to all of you for coming on and taking the time to do this video with me. And as I've already said guys, if you haven't already checked out any of these channels or some of these channels, please make sure you do go over and check out their channels, enjoy their content, subscribe to their channel and help support their channels grow. They're all really great people, really genuinely some of the nicest people you will find on YouTube, and I'm very grateful to have found these guys and call them friends. All the links to all the channels of the guys in this video are in the description below. Okay, so we would all love to hear from you guys, the viewers. What video games, scary video games, do you enjoy to play? I mean, all year round, but particularly at Halloween. Which games do you enjoy? Any games that we haven't mentioned in this video, please leave that in the comment section below, and we'll start up a conversation about the games that you enjoy. And as always guys, if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. That really helps me out and lets me know that you enjoy these videos. And if this is the first video on my channel that you have come across and you've watched, then please consider subscribing to the channel to enjoy more future content, more future Nostalgic Things episodes. And on this channel we do all kinds of videos relating to pop culture. I do video game content, Funko Pop and other collectibles and toy content, as well as top 10s and food reviews and movie reviews, all kinds of different stuff. And then obviously these Nostalgic Things episodes where we go back and look at various parts of pop culture from the past. Okay guys, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch my videos. That's it for another episode of Nostalgic Things. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take it easy.